Hey, what's going on, everybody? How the hell are you? I got to turn off my YouTube volume. Bam, there it is. YouTube volume off. Gonna wait for a few of you to populate. There's a few of you coming in. Good evening. It's a late Friday night, 11:30. I was out cruising with the car for about an hour. Really didn't find anything that was of. There was nothing really out there to try to drag race, so I just kind of tooled around and went to the normal fucking hangouts, and they were pretty empty. And I came back, played a video game, and thought, yeah, I'm going to get up and do a stream, see if anybody wants to come up and chat. You know, just see what's up. Who do we got here tonight? Anybody? It says we got 8 people in the watching, but nobody actually in the chat room. So I don't know how it can tell me there's 8 people when there's no one in chat. Oh boy! So it's quite a good day, interesting day. I actually had me a nice pizza today. Good. What up there, Leah? What up there, SB 9381? I played an old video game called Red Alert. It's an old game. Yeah, I mean, it's older than probably a lot of people's kids out here. Leah's Real Talk. Big time. And SB 9381. It's an old school game, but that's what I was a gamer back in those days, pretty intensely. I put a lot of time into games. Leah's Real Talk. Pizza sounds good. A lot of people may not agree, but I do enjoy occasionally a pizza from Pizza Hut. And that's what I had today. Double cheese, double pepperoni, light onion, easy on the sauce. And good. Who's CNC? I don't know who CNC is. You're at work. What kind of work? Well, no, don't tell us what kind of work. That's too much info. I better just let you be on that one. But at work, listening to us. I really didn't have any particular topic today. I was scrolling around today and listened to a bunch of different little chats. Went into one that was actually had my stream up in it. I paid attention to that for a little while and got a good chuckle out of it. Apparently, I don't know how cell tower signals move and how you could actually determine the distance from a cell tower by the delay and the amount of time the signal takes to get from the tower to the phone and vice versa. Apparently, I'm unaware. I'm not educated enough to know that. And one thing I am educated enough to know, though, I am definitely educated enough to know when I see a con man. I know when people are conning us. And for the longest time, I've always had that opinion. And yeah, I think we were conned. I think a lot of us were led to think something and left to think that. And now we're being told that it's our fault for thinking that. That's exactly what a con man does, right? Right? It's your fault. It's everybody's fault but the person that led you to think that. They don't want to take responsibility for their part in it. But what are you going to do? That's just part of how the world works. And there's a lot of people like that out there. I don't know. That's very fucked up. Let's see here. Hello. Who's Glowy? I don't see anyone here named. Oh, there's Glowy. Yep, easy on the sauce. I'm not. It depends. Depends on who makes the sauce. Sometimes the sauce is too acidic, so I got to throw some sugar on it. But you can't do that with a pizza unless you make it yourself. So as you're making the sauce yourself, you could test it and blah blah. Whatever you got to do, you can do. Even baking soda will change the texture, the taste of the sauce. So, yeah, SB 9381. So what else was happening? Good weather for a day. No, I'm not down with the anchovies at all. I'm not down with the anchovies. Leave them little fish alone, would you? I mean, come on. Pick on someone your own size. SB 9381. I get a kick out of all of these handles. Timu ER patient. Look at that. I love Timu. I told Brian to hire a Timu lawyer. He probably would do better than a public defender. Give me a Timu lawyer. Interesting day. There's a lot of interviews that are being covered by the other streams. And Ann Taylor is a Timu. No, I don't think she is. I think a Timu lawyer would be better than any public defender. They may not speak clear English, but with these electronics we got today, that I'm completely, apparently I don't know how any of this stuff works, but with all these electronics, yeah, you could get a translator there to get your Timu lawyer to speak English. Oh my God! So she's less than. Oh yeah, she's less than a Timu lawyer. I think so. I mean, it's just simply incredible, the information that we do have, whether you like what's being said or not being said. It's just incredible. And coming from the mouth of people you never expected to hear from, especially the experts that came from Koberger's defense team. It's just quite shocking. And like, my opinion on that is, if you think Brian did it and you were on his team, you should pretty much shut the fuck up. Let the system play out. Let's see where it goes. Let's see where it doesn't go. And don't inject yourself in it like it's being done. That to me is just a bit strange. I think in an argument of innocent or guilt, I think it's more than appropriate, once the case has been pleaded out and the guy's in jail, that you have information that you observed or that you were part of the defense. And I think the only thing that you should share is the information that you produced or that you were able to come across that exonerates the guy at best, right? But I don't really get into the idea of like Whitcomb, I think, handled it well. I think Turvey handled it well. Not because they said Brian did or didn't do it, well, specifically because they said Brian did or didn't do it. They never mentioned it. They're just telling you the data that they were able to come across, and that data is just highly suspicious. It seems like most of the data is exculpatory to Brian Koberger. And I think when you take all this technical thing out, no, I normally don't watch Pav. I tried to in the beginning, but Pavarotti, he's solved this case so many times with named perpetrators that I just can't get into it. That turns me off when I'm on a show and they're giving you these theories about who did it. I just don't. I don't have the wherewithal to follow that type of thinking. I don't know. To me, that's like pure entertainment. So I don't know what, I'm not saying everything Pav does is wrong. It's just me as a person. I don't want to hear who you thought did it, or you want to make a case. It was done at the Whites. It was done. It was just done. For a while it was done at the Linda Lane. Now it's being done at the Whites, and pretty soon it's going to be done on the fucking, I don't know, near the Snake River fucking place. Anyone in the case that sets off my alarm bell. Yeah, the investigative team, the state of Idaho. I don't know that it'd be that. It's not like Cy had some serious personal information, and I would suggest to you that Ann Taylor didn't have as close as a relationship to Cy Ray as Cy Ray is trying to impress upon us. You want to know the truth. So I'm not so sure when he's running around now saying her client's guilty and he can prove it. I don't know that it doesn't make no sense. As perpetrators, I really don't have any idea. I honestly don't. I mean, you can make the argument that I try to stick with the information given to us, and a lot of people want to go out beyond that, and they want to look at videos and reflections and shadows and noises, and I'm sure as a curiosity, occasionally I'll listen to that stuff. But yeah, his $99 textbook though is an educational book. It's not a book for reading. It's not like the Whitcomb's book or a science fiction book that's an educational book, and that $99 is not an unreasonable price for what it is. I don't know how educational it is. I haven't read it. I have no need to be a cell phone analyst. It's just not my thing. Well, No, I think Ann Taylor may have learned her lesson from opening her mouth about fucking Turvey. She should just shut the fuck up too. Do I have a hunch? It's one way or the other. Either these people got tunnel vision, or the people that directed the investigation directed them away from anything except, and they were covering something up. Right? I mean, so if you're covering something up, that's possible. I said in the very beginning, and I was very, very animate, that tunnel vision is the investigator's worst nightmare. And you start listening to some of these other what do you call it there? Some of these other channels where these interviews are going on. Some of these officers were honestly looking for different cars, right? They were looking about drugs. They were looking about Nissans. They were looking about 2-door sedans, not 4-door sedans, which we know Brian owns. I honestly think the automobile connection is way overblown. It clearly doesn't make any sense, especially, and I think Cy Ray fucked up. He may not, I don't know if he said this, but that house was lit. That house didn't have a night light on. That house was lit. And it had to be lit in Zaina's room. And it had to be lit in the common area. And it had to be lit in the kitchen. And it had to be lit upstairs. That was that house based on all of the information that's been given to us, okay? That house was lit. I think people entered that home that were comfortable in that home, because they'd been in that home multiple times. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. And that they were part of either directly a part of the group that showed up there. Or that house, because it's been said that house has been a known drug house for years, that their familiarity with the house may have come from something in nature. But again, you can't, all I can say that I suspect for sure is that the investigation was assembled in a very inappropriate, unconstitutional way to come to the conclusion, that Brian Koberger did it. I really don't care what Cy Ray said to us. I don't want to. Here's a guy that'll tell you he was in Seattle, but his phone pinged in New Orleans. I don't want to hear this nonsense about electronic data being as accurate as people want to make it out to be. I think it all comes down to interpretation. I've always said that about even DNA analysis, especially the IgG. It's the interpretation of the person that's doing it, reading it. And no one person can be right all the time. So I don't accept what Cy Ray is saying. I don't accept it. And for the simple reason that for that, if that's true, it makes no sense that they didn't connect that along with the IgG. In other words, hiding that particular bit of information is ridiculous. If you sit down and try to sort out, why would you produce some theory and ignore data? I just don't accept that that's how that would work. And especially I don't accept it because I think this guy has some other motive going. And I don't know Cy Ray, but I don't think Cy Ray is the beginning, the beginning and end of all of this. I think he's done more for Brian Koberger, unbeknownst to himself, right? He's done more to help Brian Koberger than he has hurt Brian Koberger. And I think he's done more to hurt himself, in all fairness. And I think that would pan out if he was ever put on a witness stand. I think he'd get the shit kicked out of him with a halfway decent attorney cross-examining him. Because he's got to have it both ways. And I don't see how that's possible. No, I don't know. These conspiracies of him being like part of the law enforcement no, I don't think so. They do that in politics too. They create these conspiracies where the person that appears to be the bad guy is working for the good guys secretly. I don't think that that's accurate. That's almost zero possibility for that. And it's rather difficult to hear this far down the road that I could put the guy in the living room in 5 different occasions. I mean, I just think that that's fucked up. I just don't accept that. Let me tell you what also I don't accept. And this is why I don't accept what he's saying. It's because if Brian was smart enough to turn his phone off on the night of the murder because he was the murderer, then Brian would have been smart enough to keep his phone off or not have his phone on him when he went into that house 5 different times. Therefore, you couldn't locate Brian Kohlberger. See, these are the fucked up statements that are being made. In light of the fact that if he is the killer, he knew enough to turn his phone off from 2:54 a.m. to 4:48 a.m. I also don't think Brian Kohlberger would have carried his phone at all. No, there is no easy explanation for that, Twiz. It's just it's a contradiction. And the contradiction can't always be framed on the backdrop that Brian did it. Because Brian Kohlberger is an American citizen that was never convicted of any serious crime or any crime that we're aware of at all. He never did anything to harm anybody. Ever. There's no fucking history that this guy was ever even capable or even he didn't torture insects when he was a little kid. He didn't abuse animals. His favorite friend was a dog. I'm sorry. You've got to accept that guy's an American citizen and he's getting one of the highest degrees in criminology. Right? He's getting a PhD in criminology. God knows. And this kid was too stupid to leave his phone home. Too stupid to carry a Faraday cage and put his phone in a fucking Faraday cage to erase his existence from any tower. Come on. The argument that he erased his data is a complete fucking lie. Brian Kohlberger didn't do anything to erase any of his data. So, no, that's why I'm having a problem with Cy Ray. He's so contradictory that it's not even funny. We're to believe that there was nothing cleaned up those floors in that house. Nothing. There was no cleanup of anything, yet there's diluted blood all over the second floor. And the same guy that tells you there was no cleanup in that house is the same guy telling you Brian cleaned his fucking car. When the car was ripped the fuck apart. And there was nothing to suggest there was any dilution of anything in that car. Yet that same guy that tells you there's no cleanup on King Road is telling you Brian cleaned his car. That's a contradiction. You have no evidence of a cleanup in the car and no evidence of the car being involved in the crime. And that's like not even look, a 4th grader would understand that. But not Cy Ray. That proves Brian cleaned the car. But when you go to a house where somebody had a bloodletting, like a fucking stood in a shower of blood, Cy Ray's talking about footprints. The fucking cast off blood proves that there was a cleanup of some sort. If not the weapon, then the person's hands. Something diluted that blood before it hit the wall. And it can't be Dylan's spit. And I'll tell you why it can't be. This is what I mean when you talk about these experts are smarter than normal people on the internet. It's fucking bullshit. Let me just say, if give me a drop of your blood and I'll fucking spit it. And you know what you end up with? Do you fucking know what you end up with? 2 sources of fucking DNA. That's what you fucking end up with. You don't end up with an unknown diluted substance and then blame it on fucking a vein of saliva. I mean, come on. It's fucking incredible. No, that's what you say, Timu. He's not socially comfortable. There isn't a single video that portrays Brian Kohlberger interacting in public without comfortability. Not one. Even when he was pulled over by the police, the most uncomfortable situation, a lot of people will only experience that a few times in life. And that, for a lot of people, that's the most uncomfortable thing they've ever had to deal with. Getting pulled over by a cop. How did Brian Kohlberger not handle that socially? He certainly did. With tact. Wasn't mad. Didn't swear. Didn't get nothing. Goes to the DMV, perfectly normal. He goes to a fucking store, perfectly normal. No, this is all bullshit. Everybody's framed this guy into a fucking lunatic, and it's just quite the opposite. When you look at the evidence they show you, the evidence doesn't show that at all. It doesn't. And if evidence can't show you that the kid is awkward or uncomfortable socially, if the evidence contradicts that, then that's not true. I'm Asperger's too. I've got Asperger's. I'm more socially able, I think, because I was homeless at 14. I had no choice but to find my way through life. And I'm not, don't have no pity or feel bad for me. It's fantastic. It worked out that way. I probably would never have thought doing anything like this, right? But at 14, I had to figure out how to get my way through, how to do things, how to associate with people. And I found humor. Some of you may notice at times I do have a bit of a wide range of humor: dark humor, disgusting humor, freak humor, decent humor. I'm all over the place with humor. And that was one of the tools that I adapted to interact with people that I was unaware of, didn't know, to get jobs. I sold drugs. I interacted with a whole bunch of different people selling drugs. So, no, I'm not saying, but here's the thing, too, just so you know. Timu patient, I don't argue Brian's innocent. Nothing is gonna show me, based on what we've seen now. I accept there's a possibility he committed these murders as much as I accept there's a possibility he didn't. Cy Ray's talking like there's evidence that you haven't seen, that if you've seen blase, blase, blase. And I'm not going to trust you, bro. I mean, if you're able to say that you could go home and show you Brian's movements for 6 months, I don't even know, man. And this is the other thing that we all need to look out for. There's two big problems with this case. And they're the biggest problems of all. The two problems are the computerized fucking framing and trapping and grabbing criminals, and then the transfer DNA being used. Yeah, but I didn't have anywhere to fucking post, SB. I didn't feel human either. I didn't feel a part of anything. So listen, this kid at least had a family that supported him. I didn't have that at all. Right? So, I mean, that doesn't make somebody a murderer. As a matter of fact, when I had a psychological evaluation for divorce, that's exactly what that guy said in court. He said most people that lived through what he lived through probably would have been violent, and if not violent, a murderer. And he's none of that. So, you know, I mean, people say that you were molested, you become a molester. Just so you know, that's how they view this in the circles of psychology. I was molested. I never molested nobody. I mean, what I'm saying is there's no positives in life. There's patterns of behavior that are consistent with events that happen in people's lives, but you can't just broadly paint everybody. And in the Koberger case, listen, this is why I don't even want to hear about the car anymore. The car is like a black guy committed the crime and you're black. Right? I mean, it's just not right. You can't do that. Because he has a white car, he's the criminal. And then you're going to go look at his cell phone records and see he's familiar with the area, and all of a sudden that means he's part of the crime. I don't know how you make that fucking leap. Right? How do you make that leap? How is it that Cy Ray, the big cop, the big fucking, you know, professional guy, doesn't have a problem with the chain of custody on the knife sheath? Why doesn't he have a problem with that? Because like most cops, what they're trying to do is show they're right. And when they do things wrong that's going to interfere with that, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to address it. They just ignore it. It's just, that's a fucking weird profession, man. I could never be a cop, nor could I be a lawyer. Well, that's what they claim. It's his DNA on a sheath that matches his sheath. You know, I mean, who knows? Who knows that you can even trust that? Who knows that you can even trust that? Now you need to put him in the house. This is where the problem occurs, Twiz. This is the catch-22 that you need to really think about. That sheath and that house with his DNA, also other male DNA on it. So first of all, you have to ask yourself why the swab that had nothing on it was paid attention to, but the blood swabs weren't. Why? That's the problem. 2, that DNA at that crime scene doesn't make him the killer. You have to put him in that house. Okay? And according to Cy Ray, the evidence is unfucking arguable. And yet it's not. There is no way to put him in that house. You can suggest he drove in that area. You can suggest he did this and that when he was out and about. You can suggest he was at the root beer joint with 15 fucking gas pumps when Maddie pulled in. But you still can't put these people together. No. Well, yeah, I'm just saying. Look, it's the problem is, and this is what's happening to our society, is is people are going with what sounds good rather than what's actually the truth. And there's just too many people in our country to do that. Way too many fucking people. They go with what they're being told rather than actually opening up a fucking book and reading, right? And the whole story doesn't look for Brian Kohlberger, but it wouldn't look good for anybody else if they pasted it on somebody else. What if they tracked down the guy in the black SUV and pasted it on him? You'd have the same fucking argument you have now. You can't. Hey, listen, the knife sheath and the DNA were never supposed to be even acknowledged. It was supposed to be a tip. That tells you right then and there that the government are doing things behind our back that they shouldn't be doing. That in and of itself is wrong beyond wrong, even in a quadruple homicide. Right? These are the things that are being watered down and ignored and being trampled on. The IgG, accordingly, is supposed to be the tip, but that's not how it was used. Hitler fucked up when he told Anna the prosecution to get together on how to frame that tip. That's a problem for a court to go along with that, to protect the FBI. That's bullshit, man. There should be no fucking secret of how they got to him. There should be no secret who handled that knife. No secret why it took 3 days to end up at the fucking in a report. No reason why it should be on the floor and on the fucking bed and different in a report and in images. There just shouldn't be any of that, Twiz. And here's the problem is that if you're going to hold a Kohlberger to the ghost images of a vehicle, Kohlberger to whatever pings may have happened before or after the crime, if those are okay with you and this stuff is ignored, then that's crazy. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, you have to start from the fact that story makes sense when you start with the fact that Brian did it. But the story doesn't make sense when you look at what the state of Idaho did. And you pay attention. You got 50 fucking people walking into that house without protection. In a community that you claim over and over and over again, Brian is a part of, moving around, going to the store, going there, going here, going. And then you're going to go in the house after you had all these fucking jerk-offs and windbreakers and fucking sneezing and coughing in and out of that house with a gentleman that's part of your fucking community, in and out of your community, and you're going to find transfer DNA on a swap. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what words to put this in, but if you're going to look for microscopic evidence, then motherfucker, you better be set up for microscopic evidence before you ever enter that house. They shouldn't be able to, you're correct. They shouldn't be able to get it. I agree with you on that, Twiz. I certainly agree with you on that. Touch DNA is not a crock of shit. Touch DNA is a viable source of fucking information. It's something I don't even have a problem with. You know what the problem I do have with it? Is that you don't collect it under the conditions that are acceptable for microscopic DNA. I just can't agree with that. You can't send in all those investigators in their fucking boots and they're putting booties on and they're going in the house, they're coming out of the house. And it isn't that you're just tracking stuff in, you're tracking stuff out. Right? But you haven't seen the receipt that he bought the sheath, Twiz. You have no receipt to argue that he even got a K-bar knife with a sheath. You got what the state has been telling us with no receipt. It's kind of like Cy Ray making all these claims about where Brian may have been. And what he's telling you is his opinion, right? But no receipts. I'm sorry. Without a receipt, I have no interest in even hearing it, right? Show me a receipt. How about the fucking custody of the search warrant in Pennsylvania, right? The click history thing. Come on now. Nobody knows that he bought a knife. That's all they keep telling us, but they've showed us no evidence to prove that. They also told us that he erased his stuff. And the truth of the matter is that's not true. Brian Kohlberger did not download software to erase his shit and cover his tracks. If in fact they have that receipt, it would, but you're talking about if. I'm telling you, an American citizen has no right to enter a jail cell under the fucking term if, right? I mean, it's just not right. He had a pocket knife. No, listen. Yeah, he had a knife. That's it. So you go to his home. If you go to his home and you pull all this stuff out of his closet, you find a 9mm gun. You find fucking two. What the fuck do you call those things? I get wild up in my own head. Clips of 9mm for the gun and ammunition, and then you find a fillet knife, and you find a folding knife of some brand, and then the other one is you find just a knife that you don't identify, and you put that on your evidence sheet. Knife, man, get the fuck out of here. I'm willing to bet people that knife they pulled out of Koberger's closet is a fucking K-bar knife, and they intentionally left out the word K-bar and just called it a knife, because there's not a single knife in the world that isn't identifiable by a unique name. None that I've ever been aware of. Maybe back in the day before they spoke English, okay? I mean, it's just... Well, they got to show the click history that he actually ordered that knife. Right? It's like, the people were talking about the shovel the other day. There's no argument. There's no suggestion a shovel was used in this crime. Right? None whatsoever. No, the defense made some questions about that, these receipts, as to whether it's unclear as to who ordered that knife, his sister, his father, his mother, him. There was no clear presentation to us, the people watching it. And so where is that knife that they took from his closet? Where's that knife? Yeah, that's what they told you. You accept that as fact, but there's no receipt to show that. There's no receipt to show that. Didn't Steve just the other day accept or admit that there were two weapons used? And he's wrong on that. There was a double-edged knife, there was a K-bar style knife or a hunting knife, and there was a serrated edge knife. Okay? Not to mention a 4-inch puncture wound in Kaylee and the absolute devastation of that poor young woman's fucking face. Smashed. You don't do that with a K-bar knife. You don't do that with a double-edged knife. You don't do that with a serrated edge knife. I'm sorry. And then she was strangled to death on top of it. They took a knife. It's on the list. There's 3 weapons, and then the gun would make 4. Taken from Brian Koberger. I think it was his closet in his room. And 3 knives were obtained. And one of those knives were not identified at all. Twiz, I don't know. You didn't have that particular point of view for the last 3 years that I'm aware of. Right? Yeah, anybody can think what they want, absolutely. But that doesn't tell me that what you're suggesting is actually verifiable. Its truth is yet to be determined, and you're accepting it as plain old fact. And yet, where is it? New information does change things, and I accept new information will change my opinion based on it. That's why I don't know if Brian did it or didn't do it. But here's the most important point. If he did it, the state's in a lot of trouble at this point. If he can get through this PCR, what is it? Maybe I'm calling it something wrong. I get messed up with the PCA and the anyway, if he gets through this and gets to the point where this can be retried, they're going to have a lot of fucking problems. They're going to have a lot of problems because their evidence is going to become inadmissible wholesale. And what are they going to be left with? Cy Ray? There you go. Good old Cy Ray. He's going to put Brian behind bars. Did you see the Amazon history, Twiz? Maybe the Amazon history's been released and I just haven't seen it. Do you have the Amazon history? That's all I'm asking you, Twiz. Do you have a receipt for that? It hasn't been released. There you go. So its existence could be not even real. So, but now you're all, I don't even know, man. You've taken a 180-degree turn. I mean, and then the whole thing, you're right. You never said that Cy Ray said that he was down there, but you did tell us that you talked to Cy Ray, and Cy Ray told you he was south of Moscow. And then for us to then think that meant that night during the crimes wasn't hard for us to think. Right? I mean, you don't need to be a technical guru to take what you had been saying, and for people to think that he was on that night he was south of Moscow. Right? And that means, and on that night, we're not talking about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. No, and you're right. That's exactly right. My memory isn't perfect on what you said. You're right. But what you said led us to different maps that had a triangle for one tower from Lewiston and how far up north it went in a triangle shape, different towers in their coverage range. I mean, you presented a lot of information, and none of that information was framed around this could have been at 10 at night, or it could have been at 5 a.m. at night. None of it was framed around specific times, but because we're talking about a crime where the timeline is between 4:07 and 4:20, that's naturally where our minds would go to, right? So it's not even knowing the technology to come to a particular thought based on what someone's telling you. Right. Right. So when you make all the arguments he was south, and you told us that Cy Ray told you he was south of Moscow, there was no reason for us not to think that was during the crime. There was absolutely nothing said to us, and there was no information given that would make us think that it had nothing to do with the crime, because that's what's being said now. His locations have nothing to do with the crime, the time of the crime. Okay. Well, we didn't need Cy Ray to tell us that, nor you. We knew that because they say Brian's phone was shut off, regardless of when it was shut off. Once it was shut off, right? Where's Brian Koberger? It's like looking for fucking, who's that guy in that game we used to play? Do you guys remember that game? Do you guys remember that game? Rudy, who's that guy they tell you to go look for on this board? There's millions of people on this fucking game, and you got to go find who it is. You got to find him in the crowd. Waldo. Go find Waldo. For all we know, they're in possession of that knife. Twiz, there's no evidence to say they're not in possession of a K-bar recovered from the residence in Pennsylvania. There's a reason to consider that they may in fact have a K-bar in their evidence list that they released to the public. Yeah, where's Waldo? Anybody know where Waldo is? Waldo Koberger. Listen, but in the end, all that really matters, right, is that the process under which they wrote the PCA was false. It was unsupportable by fact. And what facts could have been used to support it were avoided or ignored or unknown. And they used that in a probable cause affidavit for 4 homicides and a felony burglary. That's why they were so desperate to argue that that's his car. Not because they could identify the car. It's simply being Brian Koberger's car. Right? That's the catch-22 here. And then they created this big story. In the big story, they want you to pay attention to a car. And I'm not really that confident that any car was used to get people to the home to commit the murder. I think there was multiple ways to enter that property. And I think also the crime scene shows that whoever was involved in that crime went downstairs to the first floor. I don't know how you can argue against that. All the diluted blood samples, the unknown male DNA sample in the area going down the first floor. To argue that the perpetrator left from the rear door, there's no evidence to support that. Let's remember, the only evidence that they told us supported Koberger's exit from the home through the sliding glass door was a footprint. I'm not going to say bloody, but a footprint that showed his direction of travel. Only to find out later, with them never telling us, they never fucking told us until that book came out, that footprint was from a shoe that was recovered in the home. So the footprint that's used to suggest Brian's direction of travel isn't part of the crime scene in as much as left there by a perpetrator. I don't think so, Twiz. You can't bring stuff out at trial that's not been released in discovery. You can't all of a sudden bring stuff in that wasn't part of the process. Well, it didn't have to be a high top. It could just be a Vans shoe, SB 9381. How do you know it was a high top and not just a regular Vans? Right? Yeah, I think the entire crime scene just says that one person is most likely unable to have done what they claim. And I also think that the evidence that they used to put Brian Kohberger in jail to arrest him is unsupportable by fact, right? No, let's not attack each other. I think we're all entitled to our opinion, but I don't think that it needs to be, I don't know. It doesn't need to be personal. Doesn't need to be personal at all. How do you know it is specifically a Vans high top? Was that identified somewhere? I'm not so sure that it's not a redo of what he pled guilty to. I think that they have to go through that. And let me just say that regardless of what brand the shoe that is, whether it's a high top or a low top, according to Turvey, was it Turvey or Whitcomb? They found that shoe in the property. They found that shoe in the property. It could be a high top, could be a low top, could be a no top, could be a waist high top. It wouldn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter what that shoe is, SB 9381. That's the problem. She may have black Vans high tops, but we don't know that that was the shoe that actually made the print. But even if it was her shoe, let me just be clear. Yeah, but you're arguing about, fine, okay, you're right. It's a high top and it was Dylan's. But what you're not paying attention to was that shoe print was used in a probable cause affidavit that supported a witness statement that he left through the rear sliding door, okay? And I'm not going to look it up. I don't give a fuck what kind of Vans it is. It's not relevant. What's relevant is that was a lie. They knew it was a lie. And they put it in the probable cause affidavit anyway to support Dylan's supposed I've seen a guy. 5 unknown males mixed with victims and not identified. And but they chose. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't have to. You're right. Brian doesn't have to prove anything. Listen, just for the benefit of us and our kids and our grandkids, right? It's relevant to the crime scene. No, well, it may be, but it's not relevant to what they and the way that they used it. They used it in a way to support a witness statement, and it's not supporting the witness statement. It's wrong. And they knew it was wrong, especially if what you're saying is true. If it was a Vans high top found in Dylan's room, then that footprint couldn't have been made by the killer unless she's the fucking killer. I mean, it's just that simple, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why the state wouldn't have wanted his info. Why the fucking FBI and all their fucking hocus pocus and magic bullshit wasn't used to put this guy on an accurate depiction of his movements. That's just, he argues that they were trying to protect the DNA, but the DNA can only be protected if you can show he was there during the time of the crime. This is why I have a huge problem with what Cy is saying, Twiz. My gun in your house and you're dead by a bullet for my gun does not convict me of murder. Doesn't even charge me with murder. It makes me a suspect, right? But this is what I'm trying. This is why I have an issue with Cy. I mean, you for whatever reason, you're 100% behind the guy, and that's fine. If what he's saying is true, the most important thing for them to have done to protect the DNA was to give the information Cy has given. to use what Sy claims should have been used, because the whole point of convicting somebody in a murder is not just to find the weapon, but it's to put me in the crime. It's to put me at your house when you took that bullet. My gun does not do that. My movements, my travel, I'm observed on video or cell location or a witness or something tangible that you can say, not only was his gun there, but this is Sergeant Friday. Here's a video of him driving towards the house. Here's a video of him leaving the house, right? And that's what I mean. That's folks, the only reason that PCA was written, the way it was written, was to build a case to show Brian was present. It doesn't matter how many times he was before or after the crime in and around that home. It matters not. What matters is placing him there at the scene of the crime during the time that they're listing, right? And that's why you saw, and this is why I have such a hard time with science. I'm just some guy on YouTube that happens to have a criminal history, that did a lawyering for himself, including a divorce, okay? That spent time in law libraries, many hours on my own personal stuff. And I was pretty successful, right? And if there's evidence, regardless, that can show Brian Koberger clearly going to that property, then they would have used it. They had to have used it. Or if there was evidence placing him in that home, directly around that house, they would have used it. And you know why I know they would have used it? Because that's exactly what they're trying to tell you the other evidence shows. This is what I have a problem with Sy Ray over this issue. You can't have it both ways. I mean, you know, you need to build a case. There may not be clear evidence they was there in the house that night, Twiz. I agree. But if Sy Ray's evidence or Sy Ray's determination, okay, is that he was in the house multiple times and in that area multiple times and in areas with the girls multiple times, can somebody please explain to me why they wouldn't have used that? How they couldn't have found that? Right? No, he doesn't have to explain where his knife and sheath went. The state didn't want to. That doesn't float with me. That's just an arrogant statement from Sy Ray. The state didn't want to. Of course they wanted to, Twiz. Of course they wanted to. Look at the fucking mental fucking gymnastics they went through to put Brian in that area. It's crazy. Unbelievable. Of course they wanted to put Brian and put Brian at that house, either before, during, or after that crime. Of course they wanted to put him near the victims or interacting with the victims before that crime. Of course they did. They did everything they could. And yet, only Sy Ray happens to have that fucking proof. Guy needs a fucking slap is what he needs. Literally needs a fucking slap, because what he's saying is contradictory, because exactly what he's saying is exactly what they tried to do with false information. Imagine that. Right? They were lazy and dropped the case. No, they weren't lazy. These people were trying to aggressively get this fucking kid convince the world. Look at all the news media and all the fucking outlet, all the lies they say about this guy. Everything is on the backdrop of he killed 4 people. And if you accept that from the start, then anything else is just secondary. It doesn't matter. And that goes right back to my argument the whole time I've been online for years. Stop believing in information. Believe in the facts. It's a fucking mess what they did. And they're I don't know what the fuck their deal is in Idaho. I don't know. I mean, here's the funny thing with me is Sy is some big city guy that somehow now Steve Goncalves is friends with. He's telling Steve Goncalves that the evidence it would win 10 times out of 10 if they took it to trial with the evidence Sy is having. That's pretty much what he's saying. But it's 50-50, right? 50-50, both of them. He's telling the father that has lost his daughter in a horrific way. How bad this case was, how bad the investigation is, how deficient the information is, blah, 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 blah. He's basically telling Steve to his face that this kid shouldn't be in jail, not because he didn't do it, but because the cops didn't do their job. That's just as bad. I wouldn't want to be Steve. I feel bad for Steve. But there'd have been an easier way to cover up for that. Listen. There would have been an easier way to cover up the IGG without even covering it up. There really would have been. And they didn't, according to them. This is what I think Cy is telling people. And I'm going to make it very clear for everybody. What Cy Ray is saying is the arrest should not have been made. That once they got the tip, what they were supposed to do is create and do an investigation. That could include bringing Brian in and asking for a swab. That right there, the case would have been over. Because that swab, they claim, matched the transfer DNA. The mental gymnastics they went through to verify whether it was Brian or not is a fucking retard game. Had they done what they should have done, it would have never had to been known that the FBI gave a tip. Ever. They fucked up. They fucked up because what happened was they know that the information that they put in that warrant wasn't sufficient to arrest this kid for a quadruple homicide. In fact, what they should have done was impanel a grand jury and lay the evidence out to a grand jury and get warrants from the grand jury. Warrants that nobody would be aware of. Not the public, Koberger, nobody. And investigate the guy through the grand jury. Grand juries, that's what they're there for. When you get to RICO cases and big felony cases like this. And that ensures that the prosecutor's evidence is not only collected in a way that's constitutional, but in a way that's been given to them by a jury of 12. That this next step is reasonable. Yes, we think you should have a warrant to put a track and trace on his phone and to put a tracker on his car. And then they would get the warrant. A judge would sign a warrant. That's how you're supposed to investigate these big fucked up cases like this. How you can. Let me say, I'm saying should because I like people to do things, even if it's the long way, the right way. Right? And they didn't do any of that. And this is pretty much what Cy Ray is pointing to. The investigation wasn't an investigation at all. They got a name and then they cobbled together data to make Brian Koberger's presence at that house arguable. That's all they did. And that's deficient in its face. The statements they made to place him at that house are deficient in its face. Their own fucking PCA is exculpatory to Brian. The minute they say he turned his phone off and there was no more location of him, then it's over. You can't place him in that house. They should have accepted that. They should have accepted that before they did what they did with a warrant to arrest the guy. What they should have done at that point is surreptitiously swabbed the doorknob of his fucking house. Surreptitiously swabbed the handle of his automobile. Right? Brought him in because he owned an Elantra. Give him something to drink. Surreptitiously get his DNA off the cup. I mean, these are things that police do because it's the right thing to do. And the criminal certainly doesn't like it, but I don't give a fuck what the criminal likes. Right? That's the story they're telling you. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I don't think they know what they did. I don't think they know what they did. My understanding is they had his name back as early as November. Or at least early December, the first few days of December. Look at the amount of cars they tried to sort out who owned them or what they were. And it wasn't an investigation. That's the real issue here. There was no investigation. This was a fucking shit show from the start. This is kick the can to the next cop, to the next cop, to the next cop. Yeah, it was like November 27th. The W. Yeah. And that would have been absolutely honest to God, perfect reason to have approached Mr. Koberger. Had a conversation with him. Yep. You interviewed for this work over here. How are you, Brian? I hate to tell you, but you happen to have an Elantra. Do you mind if we have a look in your car? I know it sucks, bro, but and as you're going through that process, and you're talking to them and you're asking how things are going at school, and you start talking to them about the fucking stars and the fucking sun and the moon, you slip in, do you mind if we get a cheek swab, Mr. Kohlberg? No, they couldn't do that. They thought they could be electronic wizards, and they could actually use electronics as a means to fucking create enough information to write a warrant for probable cause, which worked. It worked. Let's go that far. The magistrate was too stupid to question the warrant, and it worked. And listen, go talk to experienced police. It's my belief, and from experience, blah, 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 blah. Not only do they think he's suspicious, but they bring this information to the grand jury. See, there's a way around all of this legally. Because I said this the minute I came into this fucking true crime nightmare, that Brian Kohlberger, based even on the limited evidence they had, okay, the evidence didn't say he did anything, but because that evidence stood out, made him a great suspect. Once they got the tip from the FBI, they just quit their jobs, right? I don't know what you're saying there, Anna. Amy Conway. ISP. Idaho State Police. FBI found nada at WSU too. Correct. They didn't find anything. And he has been committed in public. The PCA is screwed. That's exactly right. But what you don't understand, Timu, is that particular DNA, like a gun at a crime scene, is valuable information to lead you to a suspect. But then you have to piece together the suspect's movements into that property at the time the crime was committed. An investigation is more than just finding even a murder weapon. My gun at your house isn't enough. You have to now build a case to show my location, to show people saw me, a witness, or right? I mean, you guys watch crime shows. A lot of times the crime shows are showing you the cops cheat all the time, and that's probably true. But, you know, like when you watch, I forget what it was anyway, where they break into houses illegally. You can't do that. Yeah, I think this case is absolutely a shit show for technology. This case is a shit show for technology. That's what this is. If this was supposed to further technology and investigations, these people mucked it all up. It shows you the ineptitude of a lazy fucking investigation, and or it shows what technology, how technology can be manipulated to avoid revealing the true criminals, if that's what happened here. I'm sorry, with all those unknown male DNAs, that blood could have been there for weeks. But listen, it's not there for weeks. You can't say that, jerk off. That blood that you saw on the fucking steps, on the railing, wherever you found it, your first thought has to be it's connected to the crime. And your only thought, until you can rule that out, identify the fucking people. And then ask their friends, was there ever a fight in that house? Did anybody play with a knife and get cut? Was there anything in that? I mean, come on. These people have made technology a fucking joke in this crime. It appears that the technology available to them was not used, not effectively whatsoever. And therefore, the entire case is like butt kiss. You might as well just wipe your ass with it. But it's not just the FBI that's fucked up. The FBI did them a big favor. The FBI did them a big favor. And now it's a favor that we all probably may come to the conclusion it's not constitutional. Okay. And now that favor is exposed. It's exposed what the government's doing behind our backs. I think trying to figure out how the tech works is a bridge too far for everybody. Twiz. Not everybody's going to do that. I mean, it's. I understand how they locate you with fucking triangulation. I understand how they locate you with 4 GPS satellite signals that your phone communicates with. I understand that. There's a delay. Even though things move at the speed of light, there's a delay between the reception of your fucking info from the tower or from the satellite to your phone pinging back. You measure that delay. On 3 different locations, the delay is going to have 3 different times. You do that math and you'll find the pinpoint the location. It's pretty fucking simple. It's not that hard to understand. It's pretty basic. It's just like a baseball park. The guy swings the bat, hits the ball, and you see the ball fly away, and then you hear the crack. There's a delay. Now, at the speed of light, the delay is minuscule. It's millionths of a second, but it's still recordable. It's still trackable, right? That's not how they track. So they don't use the time it takes for signals to move between towers and phone across multiple towers to decide a location. They don't do that. Okay. I don't know. I don't care if it's 3 towers or 1 tower or 2 towers. If you want to know distance from the tower, the distance is going to be based south because of the southward facing part of the tower, and your signal is going to hit that southern face, and the delay between the communication between the tower and your phone is going to give you a distance from the tower, right? That's how that's going to work. And if I move around, then the next time my phone picks up the tower picks up a signal or a ping from my phone, I'm either going to be remaining in the south or I'm going to be going southeast, southwest, north, and it's going to be able to calculate my distance from the tower. But it's not going to. A single tower is not going to locate my location. Multiple towers, I think it's a minimum of 3. I could be wrong. Would then be able to triangulate your location. So I'm wrong on that? Then tell me where I'm wrong on that. I mean, satellites are adjusted because the Idaho police exposed it. That's who exposed it. But listen, the clocks on the satellite run faster than clocks on the ground. All your satellites have to adjust for that constantly. And it's only milliseconds. But if you don't adjust for that, milliseconds turns into a huge distance as milliseconds become seconds. Okay, so there you go. So it reports 1 tower at a time. So the timing data shows the distance from the tower at that time. And it does that by measuring the time it takes for the signal to move between the tower and the phone. There's millions of a second difference, and that'll tell it how far away it is, right? It takes 8 minutes and something seconds for the sunlight to come to Earth from the sun. Every piece of sunlight you're seeing, folks, is a little bit more than 8 minutes old. Now, if you move to Mars, it's going to be longer than 8 minutes. It's probably going to be 16 minutes. I'm not saying they did use it, but what I'm trying to say is that timing data is crucial if you want to know the distance from the cell tower. If you're trying to locate a cell phone. If somebody goes missing and they start pinging your cell phone, they do that all the time in rescue. If your cell phone is on, then they could get a relative distance from you in a southern direction, an eastern direction, up to where your phone is located. Doesn't mean you're going to be there, but if you're searching for a missing person, right, isn't that what they do? So I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not completely stupid. I understand you're saying the FBI didn't use it. That's what he's claiming. Cy-Ray is telling us they didn't use it. So, it could be that it's exculpatory, but apparently Cy-Ray knows. I don't know how he got the data. I mean, what is it? It's like 1 second or something between us and the moon. You could set a laser up and hit a mirror, a reflective mirror they put up on the moon to track the distance of the moon from the fucking Earth. Lokdebor. There. So he used that fucking Lokdebor, however the fuck you spell that, which incorporates more information because it connects the GPS data with the cell data. Is that what that's doing? Or is it an independent analysis by cell phone or by GPS? But if his phone is off, that shit's completely useless, right? So what good is it? Yeah, so it's not. That's what I mean. I was listening on that channel there with that Scully investigates bullshit. I'm not stupid. Not even close. I understand, and I understand some of the points you've made in the past. I think some of the points you made in the past left people to the conclusion, whether you said it or not. When you go back and look, your statements appear to well, they clearly let people make conclusions that they shouldn't have made, me included. And that doesn't mean you lied to people, but it was crucial to know that south of fucking Moscow was any time except the fucking crime. That would have been helpful to know then, because then it really wouldn't have got that much attention. So, well, yes and no, Twiz, and this is where I beg to differ with you, because at that point you did know a lot more than most any of the other people listening, and when you made the comment that Cy Ray said he was south of Moscow, that was enough for people to then in their own head conclude that covered that evening. Yeah, and then why did he lie about the fucking... Does he explain why he lied about that alibi? Why did he lie about that alibi? Why was he a part of an alibi at all? Why did he... again, it's just perplexing. This is what I mean. And did. But didn't he sign an affidavit? Didn't he sign something in that motion that he was prepared to testify? Well, I don't know. They filed another motion where he called the prosecutorial. He argued there was prosecutorial misconduct. Right? I don't know. I think this guy has gone. He's played both sides of the conversation, and the error is always on us. Okay. Well, that data puts him nowhere near the house. So, I mean, there is that, right? That data shows the PCA lied when they claimed he drove down, Route 250, right? So that's a lie. The footprint is a lie. The time of the crime is probably a lie. The idea there's any car involved is probably a lie. The only reason we're talking about a car, let's be clear, is because the FBI gave him a tip with Brian's name. If it weren't for that tip, none of these cars would have been considered involved in the crime. If any of the cars that were going to be considered a part of the crime, it would have been that SUV that Whitcomb pointed out. Let's be serious here. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why somebody would speed away from a neighborhood, right? Listen, it's water under the bridge at this point. I have a trouble with somebody like Side. It's just doing what he's doing. He worked for the defense. He should shut his fucking mouth about Brian's innocent or guilt. If he wants to come out and say the FBI screwed up on their data, well, then he should say that. And he, apparently he was willing to say that. And that should be the end of his testimony. He should move on with his life. So what's the truth? Cy Ray's conversation now completely contradicts. No, he never, listen, I'll say this. He said on the stand that at this point in time, the information that's missing, what we have is exculpatory to Brian Koberger, and the missing information, I don't know, but I reserve the right to change my opinion. So he did say that on the stand. I will give him credit for that. In other words, what they've given us in discovery shows nothing to connect Brian to the house. But that doesn't mean the rest of the discovery won't, right? So, yeah, everything the state did was exculpatory to Brian, but they framed it in the media. They framed it on the internet. And that was the catch-22. Brian became guilty of this crime with no evidence whatsoever. Well, I think also too, I want to say something, folks. On the idea that Brian Koberger didn't commit this crime, then you're asking him for an alibi, and you're asking him about where he was months after the crime happened. When he knows that he drove all over the place over there, including most likely Huawei Park, right? Yeah, that's true. He was out driving that night. And it wasn't the first night he turned his phone off either, Twist. On the 12 trips, he turned it off once in those 12 trips. So this was done twice. Yeah, that would be. But Cy-Ray is saying he came in the back road to Indian Hills. I'd like to see a map, a Google map that shows the track that Brian took to get to Indian Hills. That would be nice to see. Yeah, but so what if Ann knew? She's his defense lawyer. Right? I mean, she's his defense lawyer. Even if Ann knew he was in the house at fucking 4:08 a.m., that's not for her to say. Her job is to show that he wasn't in the house, that the evidence being presented that places him at the house is deficient. Right? That's her job. Well, Brian may have insisted I was at Huawei Park. He may have insisted that that's where he was, whether he was or not, but that may be his memory. That may be what he recalls. So it doesn't mean Ann lied. It doesn't mean Ann misrepresented anything. She's got to take what her client tells her. And if she says, Brian, the cell data contradicts it, I know that night I was at Huawei Park. I don't know what you're talking about with the cell data. I just wasn't there. So watch Lana. I do watch Lana every now and then. I listen to a whole bunch of streamers. I listen to the popular ones and the not so popular ones. I peek in, and I bounce around. I don't like to go into a stream at the start. I like the stream to have been running for either its entire length or it's been in progress for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then I come in and I start popping through it, right? And that's kind of how I watch a lot of streams. I don't sit and interact with the streams or listen to every word said by the creator. Some streams, especially when they get into this nonsense of who did it, and they let these people come up with all these stories about the Aryan Nation and all this other shit. I can't listen to streams like that. Lost internet for main power outage and dropped. Real Mikey, I don't know. What are you saying, Real Mikey? What's up there, Real Mikey? Amy Conway? Shiska Free? I can't say that name. A man come to America. Coming to America. Yeah, America's the best place in the world, man. Ain't no place better than America. Anybody tells you different, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. This is by far the best, most exceptional nation the planet has. It's one of the best places to come if you want to make something of yourself. People will encourage you, they'll work with you. People also con you and bullshit you. So you got to be careful. But for the most part, it allowed me to come from abject poverty and homelessness to a very successful businessman. I don't even know you had a channel there, Leah's Real Talk. I really didn't even know you had a channel. Yeah, they're going to start having rolling blackouts or brownouts because of the Hoover Dam. Its reservoir is almost empty. Yeah, there's a big problem with electricity out that part of the country. Listen, I said 10 years ago when I was in politics, the nation should build pipelines, underground pipelines, leading from some of our great rivers out to the middle of the country. Okay? That's what they should do. And then when the Mississippi floods, you could refill all the aquifers. You could send water to places that need water. There's no reason why we don't do that. It's kind of stupid that we don't. I mean, we've got more water in this country than any other country on the fucking earth. It's incredible. There are very dry areas. Let's be true. There is a big desert in this country as well. I mean, you got everything here. You got deserts, you got tropical forests, you got fucking everything here. And but we also have the ingenuity and the resources to head stuff like that off. It's kind of a tragedy. And California's that state, that fucking poor state. What a jerk fucking backwater shit that happens over there. That state gets robbed and lied to, and it's where he was after, and he got there. If he's where Sai says he was, yeah, he had to go through Moscow. Again, even Sai Ray says you can't place him at the house. You could make that argument with any vehicle that left that night, especially that unknown SUV. I don't know. They do a tower dump and Brian doesn't show up on that tower dump. That's a bit fucking weird. At least that's what I heard. I don't know how accurate that is. The whole case is an example of what not to do in an investigation. If the FBI is going to go fucking balls to the walls and they're going to get you a tip that you couldn't get yourself because they're going to go ahead and go into systems they shouldn't be in, then treat it as a tip. But now you need to put the fucking dots together. You need to find the dots and you need to connect the dots to place the person that was in that tip in that property or exclude them. I mean, let's be clear. Just because they came up with that kid's name, it wasn't dependent upon Idaho to make him the fucking perpetrator. If their investigation couldn't close the loop, if you can't close the circle in your investigation, then this is not the guy. At least as far as your investigation takes you. So, it works it's supposed to be a two-way street. The FBI is not telling you this is definitely your guy. This is most likely your guy. This probably is your guy. This might be your guy. Whatever they say, you still have to close the circle. You have to show him at that property during the crucial times in the minutes. This is minutes now, right? And that's the whole crux of the matter. That's what I mean. This technology in this car with the video is what fucked this whole case up. That's the fucking problem. In this case, technology shows us that in the hands of inept, okay, it becomes a dangerous weapon rather than a fucking a safe tool. It's not need to be explained. Explain to me how you know for a fact that the testing of that sheep produced DNA and what they call transfer. Show me how you know that. I mean, that's arguable. You got blood, male DNA and blood form on the sheath. Regardless of how small the blood is, you could see it with the human eye. Just imagine that. I mean, it's like fucking taking 3 fry pans that you're going to cook dinner in. 2 of them are still dirty. 1 of them is clean. And you're going to start with the clean pan, cleaning it, washing it, scrubbing it, and you're going to ignore the 2 dirty pans? I mean, come on, what the fuck? Makes no sense. Right? What about the fucking DNA on the sheet that's blood? Why isn't that ran down to the nth degree? Why wasn't that sent to Othram for their IgG work? Come on, man. This is why so many transfer DNA cases get fucking overturned. That's why transfer DNA cases should not be allowed unless you have multiple contact points. It's on the sheet that was on Maddie's thigh. It was on the fucking comforter. It was on the door handle. It was on the door frame. It was on the wall. It was somewhere else. Multiple locations of transfer DNA within the fucking arena of a crime. Within that fucking room. Within that hallway. Within leading it to or from the room is fine. I won't object to that. Especially if you're someone that claims you don't know anybody in that house. You've never been to that house and you're arguing you weren't there. Well, okay. So I don't even think DNA, any form of DNA is acceptable, but one piece of DNA and then you create warrants that are based on lies, you really got to be the stupidest fucking people in the world. especially when he's out here arguing that there were ways that they could have located this guy and made the argument that he was stalking. They didn't have to have proof, but they could have made a circumstantial evidence argument of all the different times those phones came together. And if he's really that good, then he should be able to place fucking Brian Kohlberger and Maddie and Brian and Kaylee and Brian and any of them people at the same place within so many feet over several different dates. Right? Now, that's either a coincidence or it's not. It would be for the jury to decide. I have a hard time with Cy telling us all of this because the only thing the investigators could do, that's what Cy Ray is telling us. And I don't accept that twist. The only thing they had to do was create enough circumstantial evidence that couldn't be questioned. And that's what Cy Ray is telling us is available. And they didn't even look at it. And he doesn't have a good reason to why they didn't look at it. And then he brings up the IGG. But in fact, the IGG demands that they build a circumstantial case that would put him in connection with the home or with the occupants. They didn't. Well, then how does Cy Ray do this? And you said Lokbar or Lockbar, whatever the fuck. They couldn't have got that either. They didn't know that existed. They couldn't have talked to a specialist at AT&T and their security. Well, it makes no sense not to use the data. This is what I'm trying to say. I just don't see the sense in that. I know that's what he keeps saying. They had it, but they didn't use it. They handed it to the defense. Yeah, I'd like for those documents to be shown. I'd like for that. I don't remember Ann getting. I don't remember exactly what Ann had gotten from them. But it should be in discovery, right? Well, and this is all I'm trying to say, Twist. It was so important for them to have a solid as a rock circumstantial case on this guy. And for them to ignore Nellis and Lockbar is mind fucking boggling. Right? It's just fucking mind boggling. It's beyond comprehension. I don't know if it was collected from the floor. I think that there's two different statements about that knife. In one report, he said it was on the floor, and then the photographs and the reports with the photograph located on the bed, beneath, slightly beneath Maddie's leg and the comforter. It appears, and I don't even object to that. It would make sense that somebody moved that knife sheath, but when you do that, you must write a report. Yeah, Ashley. And that's perfectly acceptable. If you're examining the crime scene, things are going to get moved, but you have to fucking document that. You have to have pictures of it and someone signing off on that. I, Officer Jones, observed a knife sheath on the floor in the mix of the crime scene. And in order to get a better blood pattern examination, the knife was moved onto to the bed and supported by placing it slightly under Maddie's leg. That would have been perfectly fucking cool. They didn't do that. I mean, it's just Keystone Cops to the extreme. It's beyond understanding how Keystone Copish it was. It's just once they had, and here's the other thing too, and this is something that's a bit shocking, just so folks know. None of what Cy Ray says can be used in a court of law against Brian Kohlberger. And I'm going to give you the reason why. If in fact what Twiz is saying, if in fact that information was produced for discovery and given to the defense, and the prosecution had that in their possession during this phase of the investigation, then that's fruit from the poison tree, and it would never be admissible in any legitimate court of law. Nothing that Cy Ray is saying can be used against Brian Kohlberger because it was obtained under the warrant to arrest him, to which the warrant to arrest him was false. There was no fact to it. I'm fairly confident that if he does get awarded this chance, and they say that his what is it, PCR? I don't know why I can't remember that. Well, they would have thrown out the knife sheath if they cared. Hitler made a lot of mistakes. He made rulings he should never have made. I'll tell you specifically when he ignored Anne's plea for more time, one, and even more specifically how he told them to deal with that tip. And I said this in the very beginning, and I know it caused Dago grief. I hope this fucking guy did it and this case gets exposed for what these cops did, because they probably never needed to do what they did. Lazy, inept, or cover up, right? No, I don't think this guy should be kept out of the public. If this guy is a serial fucking killer, I don't know how Cy Ray can make that. Cy Ray says a lot of things. And Cy Ray is doing more for the defense than he's doing for the fucking prosecution. He's doing way more to enable Brian. And this is what shocks me, is that Steve is interacting with this guy. No matter what this guy thinks of Brian Kohlberger, right? I think, yeah, but the jury is not going to be able to hear the evidence. That's the problem. If this, what is this called? Post conviction relief. He's applied for it. They got to grant it. Then they got to have a hearing. All right. Post conviction relief is I don't think the process under which you get a new trial. It may be, but I'm not so sure. I said I was going to read up on that, and folks, I've been lazy. You want to know the truth? I'm the most successful lazy person you'll ever hear or know in your entire life. I've made success out of being lazy. So, you know, that's why that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And oh man, I think Cy's muddying up the jury pool, but I don't think the jury pool is going to be able to hear the stuff he's talking about. That's the catch-22. I don't think he's a traitor in as much as I honestly think that he's hurting other experts in the field. Listen, I think once you become an expert for a defendant, whether you're paid or not has nothing to do with your commitment to the defendant. And even if you think the defendant is guilty, you should just keep your mouth shut. No, the defense could the defense actually I would fucking call him as a no, I would use my documents to show that data was available to them back then and they ignored it, and whatever the results of that data is not relevant. It's not actually admissible. Getting close to hurting the reputation of the science. Well, he's very much hurting the science. Yeah, he does do contradictions. I don't know how a crime scene of that magnitude, and you can argue there was no cleanup. And I'm suggesting the cleanup was just the floor. That the drops on the floor that had to have come from the weapon, it had to have come from the perpetrator. I mean, you couldn't do that to Kaylee standing up or Xana. There's no way the battle that ensued between Xana and the perpetrator, there's no way that battle could have happened and you not be covered in blood. Just not possible. The damage done to Kaylee upstairs, it just almost seems unreasonable to think that somebody walked around that house covered in blood and didn't leave a drop of it. Right? I think it's kind of funny that Cy Ray points to footprints. I don't even think footprints are the question here. I wouldn't even be looking for footprints. I would expect to see drops of blood on that floor, on the staircase, whether it be the staircase leading up or downstairs. heading towards the sliding glass door, the linoleum in the kitchen. I don't know. What did this guy do? Wrap himself in fucking super absorbent toilet paper? Did he wrap him fucking self in Bounty towels? What the fuck did this guy do to contain the fucking blood? To keep that blood from dripping, but not fucking well enough not to get what we know to be diluted blood around the fucking second common area and down the stairs heading towards the first floor. That diluted blood screams, I'm diluted because I came from an object that was cleaned, that was rinsed off. Maybe their hands. No, but that doesn't, you have to explain, Twiz, how diluted blood got throughout the second floor. It didn't get diluted because it hit the wall and ran down it. It didn't get diluted because they're arguing that stupid expert from the state is saying it could have been Zana's saliva. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Blood and saliva, unless they came from the same person, blood and saliva is two sources of DNA. And we all know that's true. This is why this fucking people, these experts will drive you up a fucking wall. What do you send to 23andMe or a Heritage when you send in you want to do your family tree? What do you say? What do you send them? A cheek swab, your mucus, your spit in a tube, your saliva. So you got diluted blood in a crime scene, and you're going to argue that it was diluted by possibly by Zana's saliva, but then why aren't there two DNAs in that one sample? Both hers and the fucking unknown. Come on, man, give me a fucking break. You can't dilute it with saliva and not have two DNA samples. It just doesn't work that way. And anybody that gives it a tenth of a second of thought realizes that. No, there was blood in spots that have nothing to do with that fucking table. There was blood on that table. There was blood on a knee wall. There was blood on the back side of that table. There was blood on the fucking sill that led downstairs underneath a fucking 6-pack of alcohol. No, there was on the fucking ceiling over going down the stairway, the angled ceiling on both fucking walls, the knee wall and the main wall. It was all over the place. It was on the wall going down the fucking Zana's bedroom. It was in the staircase coming down the stairs. But the diluted blood was mainly on the second floor, heading towards the first and in the second floor common area. And I'm telling you, that was diluted before it left whatever object it came from. Whether it be a human being or a dog, like I do have Miss Potts, I do credit her with that. A dog that had been washed and dried and then it shakes, that would explain a lot of that diluted blood because it was diluted coming off of a washed dog. That would make a lot of sense. More sense than anything else when you look at the limited amount of it. I mean, there's enough there, but not enough to say the dog was covered in blood when it shook, more than after it was been cleaned. And also it suggests that the dog did that on the first floor staircase and the common area, right? I don't know. I just disagree with Cy Ray. He'll accept Brian Koberger cleaned his car, but no drops on the floor of the movement of the perpetrator or perpetrators is to me, the absence of that. Clearly that floor should have been fucking tore up and looked at. Well, I don't know about, but there is water on the table and cups on the floor. Well, you go and you straddle somebody with a fucking K-bar knife and just start hacking them up 54 fucking times. And their life's blood pours out of the fucking floor. You're wrestling in that blood with this poor young woman. And you're going to get up and walk out of that fucking house and not leave a drop of blood behind you? I can't even imagine how that. I've been a cop for 15 years, seen a lot of fucking stabbings and no blood trail. Mm-hmm, yeah, sure. There'd be you would see white marks. Mm-hmm, yeah, okay. And if you're cleaning up blood and drops, he's arguing about footprints. Yeah, I hear what he's saying. I mean, come on. But he left his knife sheath behind. I don't think that knife sheath belonged to the killer to begin with. I never did. I always thought that knife sheath, my interpretation of the crime scene was that that knife sheath belonged to one of the victims upstairs. That was their own personal defense. And that knife may have been drawn in order to defend themselves, and that's why it got all fucking crazy. I just don't accept that that knife sheath was carried in by the perpetrator. Nor do I accept only one person was in that home when you have at least 3 weapons used on Kaylee, not to mention the choking. It just doesn't add up. There's no way one guy did this. And that's the evidence telling me no way. Not me just trying to be a braggart, but the points of information given to us don't add up to the argument they're making. If Brian was part of this crime, he wasn't alone. Maybe Brian was the driver. But then that would really fucking be bad too, because that would mean somebody covered in blood got in his car. Yeah, that was that Jeff H. saying they use a fucking shower curtain. He's an idiot, that kid. He just likes to be contrary. He comes off as this fucking really religious, kind individual. That's just his MO to come out and start fucking with people. Well, we can't see that there was cleanup in the house because they didn't take the drains apart. They didn't remove the drains. They didn't look for it. They didn't take the traps out of the sinks or out of the bathtubs. Right? They didn't do that. And so that's not a complete investigation. You're going to tell me, here's the best part. You're going to tell me that one guy did all of this and drowned himself basically in blood, left his knife sheath behind, and transferred DNA. And that was it. And yet, knowing that somebody had done what they had done in that house with 4 fucking adults, you don't take a drain apart? They hosed the kitchen down. What about the floors? Why weren't the floors hosed down with the same chemical? Yeah, and I don't want even people saying it happened somewhere else. That's just insane. That's insane. That's a conspiracy theory that has no supporting data to make that even be talked about. Definitely not multiple perpetrators. Well, then you think and that's it, you believe. Think about it. Don't believe in anything that's provided by humanity. Information from human beings is not to be believed. It's to be thought about. You don't have multiple weapons used on one young woman and she's choked to death. And say that one guy did that. What do you do? Maddie, hold my knife, Maddie, while I get this bar and smash this girl's face in. How do you go through multiple weapons with one murderer on one victim? And then there were at least 2 weapons used on Xana downstairs. How is that possible? All and just within a few minutes, it was one person? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What did this guy walk in there with, a fucking armory? Did he have a butler? Did he have somebody saying, excuse me, can you hold this K-bar knife and give me that double-edged knife? I mean, just think that one through. How do you produce all of those wounds from different weapons and be all by yourself? I don't know. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. Where's Kane? Is Kane in here? Ignoring the screams at 227. Yeah, if 227 is the actual time. I'm wondering if that time wasn't moved back. It took them a year. And here's, just so you know, Kane and others, those videos were withheld for a year. Or maybe not a year, but a long fucking time. And the argument was they couldn't get the video and the audio to sync. And so it is possible that this didn't happen at 227, that what you're hearing at 227 happened at 417. And it's also possible, as you're saying, it happened at 227. But the problem we have is that the audio didn't sync with the video. That was said in open court. And that was the reason there was a delay in turning that piece of discovery over to Ann. Now, she did get it. She did get it. So your point is well stated, but I think there's been a few creators that have pointed out inconsistencies in the video. Not just the timeline, but if the timeline is 4 to 420 or 4 or whatever it is, I'm not so sure that video that you're hearing at 217 wouldn't fit into the same timeline of 4 o'clock to 420. I haven't listened to it enough to know. And I'm only saying that because the discovery was withheld as they were syncing the audio with the video, which makes no fucking sense. Makes no sense whatsoever that you make a video that records audio and they're out of sync. That is just unimaginable to me. Listen, I got I'm not going to get into it, but I have video software that isn't recognizable by almost anything out there. And it's MP4. But the code that it's written on will not play on any other player. There is no codec to load into your player to play this video. This video is recorded in a file format that's got nothing to do with video. So it's hard to even. It's made to run fucking massive knitting machines. Okay, and it's a file that will not be played in any player, and you cannot codec it to play. So I understand that you can have a video that you don't play or doesn't work or it only plays. I get it, but if you download the correct player, then the video and the audio are naturally going to be synced. All you need to know is the file that it was recorded to. So I don't know why they held this stuff back and why they came right out forward and said that they were having a problem syncing the audio with the video. And I've always found that suspicious. So I don't really dispute people that claim 217 was the time of the crime. That's possible. But I also think that same stuff could have been it should have originally been around the 4 o'clock time. That they transposed those 2 times. Right? And for all we know, the car flying away at 420 happened at the 217. I mean, everything is just so fucked up in what these police did. How can you? I just can't get it through my head how you can record video and audio simultaneously, and they come out of sync. I've never heard that ever, and I go all the way back to the fucking beta tape. Beta preceded fucking the VCR. It was Sony, right? And then before that was a fucking 8mm camera. And you didn't have a problem with any of them devices syncing the volume with the fucking footage. I've never heard that before. And the only time you'll hear that is in if you're doing some studio stuff professionally, where the sound and the video are being done simultaneously on different machines. Compression of files will do that. I guess that's possible. Yeah, I never had that problem. I used to take fucking regular VCR tape and put them on DVD for people. I never had an issue with syncing fucking audio and video. I just didn't. I could see changing format or using the wrong format playback machine or having to convert. I don't know how compression of files will do that either. Compression of files, I don't know. I'm going to have to compress a video and then take it back. Take it back out and play it. I'm not so sure. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Let me Google it quickly. Let me ask a fucking. Hang on. Yeah, you're dead right. You're 100% right. Cause of sync issues during compression. You're 1,000% accurate in that statement, Tiffany Marie. Boom. That was a home run. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I never had that issue when I would convert from one to the other. I would download a lot of videos for friends on VCR and then burn them on the disc for them. Yeah. No, she's dead right. If Tiffany is a female, I'm not sure. It's a female name. Compressing of the files will do that. So you learned me something, and I appreciate that. I like to be learned something. Being wrong is the first step into learning. If you can't accept you're wrong, if you don't, I enjoy when I'm wrong because I just learned something. Compression of files will set video and audio out of sync. Not always, But it is a common thing. You're awesome, man. You educated the Sarge. See? Fuck college. Huh. I just got to open up a chat, start talking shit. The next thing you know, light bulb goes off. Learned. I've been learned. You learned me something. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. YouTube also compresses the file, but I see. I don't know. I've had no problem with playback with modern stuff. Damn, you don't even have credentials. No, but I'm a learning motherfucker. I'll learn. You can learn me anything you want to learn me. You could teach me old tricks. I don't know. I'm an old dog. You could teach me new tricks. I'm completely cool with that. So, what else we got here? Since this was like a free-for-all Friday, I didn't even expect to stream. I was out ripping around with the car. There's no one out there. Bunch of pussies. People build these cars. Where the hell are you? I'll probably go out at, well, it's 1:15. I probably won't be much out until the bars, and then you don't want to drive around when the bars are closing. No, the state's expert was an idiot beyond understanding. He did it naked. That's even worse. That's even worse. That's 10 times worse than doing it with something that could absorb the blood. I'd wear like a fluffy cotton shirt so the blood would be absorbed and not drip off me. I mean, you use your head. Any liquid is going to run to the fucking floor. It's going to drip. Yeah, it's just. And the other thing is the bloodletting for Xana ended at her door. It was like the door and the hallway were two different universes. Yeah, the old cassette tapes, is that what you're talking about? Or the old reel-to-reel? I kind of think the state defense reports are both bad. Maybe you don't remember. Credentials? No, how about that state investigator? Oh, he did it naked. Well, that would be worse, man. Worse on a magnitude of unimaginable fucking levels. Did it naked. Are you serious? What did he do? Let his willy just fucking fly in the wind? Is that what he did? He went in there with his willy fully unprotected and naked and started stabbing people? And nobody decided to kick him in the gonads or grab a hold of them fucking things and yank on them and squeeze them or kick them or bite them or something? Are you serious? I mean, this is a fight for your life, folks. This isn't, in a ring where there's a fucking 3-minute timer. This is it. No, I know. I'm just, maybe he tied it up like the uncontacted Amazon tribes. Yeah, maybe he did. I mean, Brian Koberger apparently learned enough about fucking cloud forensics to know just enough not to know anything. That's the other shocking thing here. You want to argue that he went to school to become a killer, but apparently he didn't learn enough. He didn't learn enough, clearly, based on what the fucking evidence the state produced. They would turn off their phone to master location. I wouldn't listen. I've got a vehicle and a phone. Well, the vehicle cannot be tracked because it's an old car. It's an old car that I turned into a performance. Can't track that car. Visually, yes, but electronically, no. Do you honestly think if I went to commit a crime, I'd bring my phone with me? Do you think I would search anything on the internet or anything at all? And the answer is no. Yeah, who drives to the house? Yeah, that's it. Here. That's what I mean. He must have had a fucking butler with him. This Koberger must be a fucking multimillionaire, and we just weren't aware of it. He had a butler help him in and out of different outfits, clean up his car, carry his kill kit, pick the fucking weapon, hold the fucking weapon when he was done with it, clean it off, put it back in the bag. Right? Oh, sir. Sir, let me get that smudge on your shirt, sir. Unbelievable, man. The frenziness of these attacks. It's like, yeah. Cy Ray. I've seen a lot of guys, a lot of crimes with a knife and murders. Believe it or not, the perpetrator didn't leave a trail of blood. Yeah, well, if I stick a fucking knife in your heart and leave it there's going to be no blood on me either. If he did it, he did a couple of the dumbest things you could think of. That's what I mean. I think here's the thing. If you take the backdrop of the murder out and look at this guy's travels, they're probably perfectly fucking innocent things. They're probably repetitive things because people like us do things repetitively. We literally do a lot of repetitive things. Once in a while, we'll go outside of our repetitive thing. It's very, very customary for people with on the spectrum to do that. I'm constantly doing that. I know I'm doing it. Sometimes I will change. But I'm telling you, I drive my car. I got a race car. I drive around the street. And I can tell you that I've driven, I fucking wore the roads out. I wore tires out in the fucking places that I go. But occasionally, I'll go in reverse or I'll take a completely different path to get to where I'm going. Occasionally. I change it up. But it's not that common. On 10 or 15 travels, I might do it once. Maybe not at all. No, I don't think Cy should release anything. Cy should just keep it. He should just go back to where the fuck he came from and do what he was doing before he even got involved with this case. I don't know what it was. And I don't care what it was. I think he should just pick up his shit and move on. What did Mikey say? Another blackout, for fuck's sake. Tornado Alley tonight. Uh-oh. Yeah, you don't want tornadoes, man. Well, let him go map someone else's cell phone. Tell him he can map Sergeant Friday's cell phone all he wants. Over and over and over again. Tell me when I was in Indiana. Right? The answer is never, but apparently some of this software fucks up and you go from fucking Washington to New Orleans. But don't worry, that software is accurate. That's the other thing, too. These people just double talk constantly, and they say things that you're not supposed to like a question. How can the same software you claim is the most accurate software and you're so schooled in it show Koberger in Washington State or Seattle or wherever show up in fucking New Orleans? I mean, if anything, that should just let the fucking people in the jury know you can't trust the software, right? No, there's no answer that makes fucking sense just for the layman. Your software that picks me up in Washington is showing me in New Orleans. I'm sorry. That's all I need to know. That means your software isn't 100% perfect. Well, the interpreter, the guy that's reading it, whoever the fuck, however you end up there, right? However the fuck you got there. No, I don't want to know the answer, okay? Because if you're telling me that you saw the guys in fucking Washington, but the location showed them in New Orleans, I'm sorry. That's enough said as far as I'm concerned, right? I hear that all the time from people. My car's faster than yours. Okay. Well, I got a turbo. Yeah, I don't. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for it, but it's kind of, just think that one through. I caught a fish this big is what it sounds like to me. It's AT&T, not his software. I'm not saying it's his software. AT&T has to have some software. I mean, everything operates off of a software background, right? So if AT&T is saying he's in fucking New Orleans when he's really in fucking Washington, what good is that fucking software? And my fingerprint doesn't identify you, Twiz. That's every day of the week, including Sunday. My fingerprint won't identify anyone but me. And that's what I like to see as evidence, is uncontroversial evidence. Yeah, sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. And this is what people aren't being told, especially by guys like Cy. I mean, the problem is that shit isn't all that it seems to be. All that means is that GPS location was wrong. Now, I agree, not all of it. But when do we know it's wrong? Does it have to be that egregious? Can it be just a few miles off? I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be that egregious. Can it be a few miles off several times in a row? And the answer to that has to also be, yeah. Oh, okay. Then why are we using this as evidence? I mean, get off the fucking stand. Take a walk. Go to a fucking ice cream stand and get yourself banana ice cream or something. I don't. Some things are true and whatever trade you're in. I was in the roofing trade. You don't put the step flashing on the wall and the shingle properly, that's a leak. That's going to leak. It's not my opinion. That's how the system works. It works one way. And if you don't do it, then you got a problem. And you can't say that that's the software doesn't, or or whatever the fuck AT&T is using. Call it whatever you want. I don't know what you want to call it. I use the word software because I think it's the most identifiable common thing most people can understand, right? Software. So if your software can be off, it can be off. And so how is that even allowed in a court of law? Literally. I mean, that right there, there should be a warning to the jury. Yeah, if I was, you wouldn't want me as a defense witness. That'd be the first thing I'd ever say when I got up on the stand. No one would be in prison if we followed your rules. Are you out of your mind? Come on. Prison populations wouldn't decline if having actual evidence and multiple felonies was required to have direct evidence to convict. It's those circumstantial cases that get people in prison that shouldn't be in prison. It's those circumstantial cases where you're going to kill me with fucking firing squad. Like it's 1850. That, right? And meanwhile, whether I did it or not, clearly the story you're telling is a fucking lie. And your lie is being believed by the judge. And the judge is on your team. And no matter what we point out as being fucking deficient, you ignore. And you're going to let the fucking prosecution use whatever the fuck they want and tell a story, right, to a jury and get me put in front of firing squad. It's crazy. My fucking fingerprints were on door hinges of a door that was removed and guns were stolen from that apartment. I mean, how much better evidence do you need than that, right? I was never charged with the crime. They passed because my fingerprints had every reason to be on that door hinge, every reason to be in that hallway because I was painting that fucking hallway. And the fact of the matter is, I literally robbed that guy's guns. Correct. And that's what I mean. If that's enough to get me from being convicted of a crime I committed, it should go the other way for getting a guy convicted for the crime. It's got to be a two-way street, man. Yeah, I mean, you got a guy there saying he's got the celebratory thumbs up picture, only to find out years later that he sent 3,800 pics like that to his family. But for how long did the media run with that? His celebratory pose after he murdered four college students. I mean, come on, man. That isn't even circumstantial evidence. That's a blatant fucking sick attack against a guy that's never committed a crime to our knowledge. Hell no. And again, that's a white car, right? It's like saying, well, the murderer was black. Oh, hey, there's a black guy. Go get him. What's going on? Well, you're black. You're walking on the street. There was a murder. Come with us. I mean, I thought we got beyond that kind of evidence. Brian owns a white car. Oh, yeah, so do I. 25% of all vehicles in the United States are white, okay? Because we're white. We like white. It's just sad, man. This technology is going to be the fucking doom of us. They're going to try to use fucking technology, predictive software to predict who's likely to be a killer, a murderer, a criminal. We're coming to an age where you're going to fucking be observed by so many of the things you do. They're going to tell people this guy's unemployable. This guy's got sick fantasies. This guy's this guy's that. You could be a welder. You could be a bricklayer. Nah, fuck you. We're going to have a robot do it. It's going to be fucking lit if this country doesn't get its act together and start going against the corporations. You watch. Maybe some of us are old enough we won't experience it to the full extent, but lo and behold, it's coming. These data centers are going to be they're going to be the death of us all. Watch. It's going to be fucking crazy. They're going to use robots and machines to do all the work that you and I do and give everybody a basic fucking income to live on. I don't think it's too late. It's you know why you think it's too late? You don't even know that your thought has been put into you. You think that because that's what they've taught us all to think. I come across that all the time. And it's funny how many people give the same fucking answer. When I say start boycotting these people to collect your data, you heard all the data that Cy said the FBI has available to it. All your purchases, your likelihood. That's why, and he's telling you, you ever go online and look at something, and the next thing you know, it's on your Facebook showing up. I'm telling you, folks, if we don't start demanding that all of our personal data be locked, that they're not entitled to it, that they have to throw it out, you'd have an economic crisis for sure. However, you would have freedom for sure. Freedom isn't free. And every time I bought a TV and I haven't used it because they want me to sign up for a Vizio account. I can't even watch the TV. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Everybody says the same thing you're saying. This is why Americans won't, because everybody's been convinced subconsciously that that's what's going to happen. But when a fucking transgender advertises for Budweiser, how many Americans boycotted fucking Budweiser? So don't tell me it can't be done. You see? Of course it can. Of course it can. But everybody has the same thought that you have. If somebody would have said 5 years ago that Budweiser was going to be boycotted, nobody would have believed you. You would have been called crazy. You would have been called crazy. Yeah, I don't want to get into the discussion of that, Twiz. Don't even delete that comment. I don't want that even in my stream because they'll fucking give me another strike. You got to get that the hell out of here, bro. Can you delete that comment or do I got to? I don't want to remove you. I don't want to put you in a timeout. Hide user, remove the standard moderator. I don't know what to do. Get that out of here, though. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, they're real fucked up on that. Don't even say that out loud. I mean, that's what I mean. I shouldn't even be complying with that. But if I don't comply with that, then they fucking strike your channel. Unfucking believable, man. And we as Americans don't do anything about it. You got people out here saying, well, they might have done rugs. Rugs? Xana was snorting rugs? Unalived? Nobody was unalived. They were murdered. And nobody was snorting rugs. They were snorting drugs. Don't tell me the words I can use to describe reality. Are you out of your fucking mind? I mean, give it a fucking break. Oh my God. Unalived. Oh my God. Who's so sensitive they can't use the word murder or killed? Fucking insane, man. Oh, Mikey, I was talking about something Twiz said specifically to Twiz, not to you. Twiz knows what it was, and he immediately removed it. Don't use the C word, you rotten cunt. I mean, don't worry. If I see it in chat, I'll ask somebody to delete it if it comes up. Right. Everybody said we were going to get 666. We were going to the mark of the beast. Well, if anything is the mark of the beast, it's the fucking phone you carry around. Got it up your ass. I walked away from a barbecue with friends, a bonfire. Oh, yeah, got it. Yeah. I was at a fucking bonfire and everybody's on their fucking phone. And I'm sitting there looking around. I go, hey, what's up? Everybody's like, oh, nothing. They look back at their phone. So I'm taking off. One person goes, why? I go, don't worry. You'll figure it out on your phone sooner or later. And I just jumped in my car and left. Fuck the bonfire. Everybody's on their phone. Throw them phones in the fucking fire. It tracks everything you do now. Every fucking thing you do. As a matter of fact, I'm not so sure that they can't even get into your own thoughts at this point. I know that sounds a bit insane, but I'm going to tell you that I've thought of things that I need, never even Googled it, never said it out loud to another human being, and I'll be fucking damned if it doesn't show up on my Facebook as an ad. Now, I got Facebook, and I've got 18 friends or some ridiculously small quantity of friends on Facebook. It's crazy. It's crazy. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe. I don't know. Well, it's kind of late here in New York State. I'm in New York. You know me, and I'm sure I don't have Facebook, but it showed up elsewhere. I have Facebook. I've got a few friends. and they're car people, and some of the events that go around with cars. It's just so convenient to get it from there. And yeah, and there's not that many friends. Most of them aren't even, I wouldn't even call them friends. They're long known acquaintances, I guess. Very, very few of them are actually what I would consider a friend. So listen, I'm glad you guys came in tonight. If you hit like, I appreciate it. All the like will do for this stream is to get this information or whatever we talked about out into the algorithm, and YouTube will advertise. You know, my stream will show up in front of people that like true crime or whatever that may not know I exist. That's what the like does for me. It doesn't put money in my pocket. I don't keep track of how many fucking views I get. I really don't care. What's in it? It's a selfish reason I do what I do, right? So, to be all completely honest, my mind works only when I'm able to actually hear and get some feedback. And I can't walk around the fucking house talking to myself. It doesn't work that way. Maybe it does. I've never tried it because then I think maybe I might go too far in my discussion with myself and somebody might get hurt. Oh, man, that's just insane, right? I refuse to talk to myself on the basis that somebody might get hurt. What the fuck? Holy shit. Just don't talk to your phone. Yeah, my phone is here with me, but I don't take it anywhere. Since I retired and sold my business, I mean, I can't even tell you how wonderful it is not to have to answer to nobody. It's an amazing experience. Never there. I mean, I ran a business for 30 years. I just turned 60, and I retired last year, and then I had to do a couple of things this year to solidify the sale. But to just not be connected to the company. Nobody has my phone number. Company is still in business. Those people have to answer the phone, good, bad, or indifferent, and I get left alone. It's fucking wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Like I could actually stay on all night till 6 a.m. There's nothing telling me I need to go to bed, and I'm not telling me what time I got to get up. And it's the most wonderful fucking experience ever. I don't know how people say they don't want to retire. What are they going to do when they retire? Yeah, no, I live a great life. There's a lot of solitude during my days, but I don't know how people say they don't want to retire. What would I do if I retire? I mean, you're not having to fucking answer to anybody. Going out and watching the grass grow, right? I mean, there's some weeds in my front yard that grow like a fucking windstorm, man. Yeah, like right now, I'm doing something unusual. I'm eating everything in my freezer until it's empty. That new TV I just bought won't. It's a Vizio TV. Yeah, you got to register the TV in order to use the TV. I mean, get the fuck out of here with that. Anyway, I bought that for some girl because she needs a TV to be on in the bedroom. And whatever. And then I haven't really talked to her since I bought the TV. I mean, what's up with that? No, I could bring other devices maybe, but no, you turn the TV on and it brings you to a registration screen and you can't go beyond it. As far as I know, you can't get past it. The minute you turn it on, it takes you to this process. And I don't know how you get around it. Maybe there is. I just don't give a fuck. It's like, come on, man. Leave the old guy alone. And like I said, I didn't even get the TV for my own personal benefit. Were you going to use it as a smart? I don't know. Whatever the fuck she wanted to watch on it when she was over. And she'd rather watch TV in the bedroom. Oh, okay, fine. And then she falls asleep with the TV on. Nah, it was $99 for a 43-inch TV. Why get rid of it? My living room, I've got an 86-inch TV. And the last TV I had was 75. And after about 10 years, it failed. Should have had it. Yeah, then she'd deny me access to the TV if she gets mad at me. No. With women, if you can do it, you always got to keep the upper hand. If you can't keep the upper hand, then you're in serious fucking trouble. You know, there's that thing going back in the 80s. Who's got the hand? And in a relationship, you want to be the one with the upper hand. Like I said, I don't mind spending the money and buying it. To come over here, if she's going to come over here and hang out and watch TV in the bedroom, that's fine. But yeah, no, I wasn't going to put it in her name. You got to be out of your damn mind. That's the other reason I never remarried after my divorce. Look at Live and Laugh says that's mostly true. Yeah. She signs out and I'm fucked. Now I got a TV that I can't even, that I don't want to watch while I'm in there. I mean, that's the funny thing. I never, I like it to be dark. Like I nap sometimes during the day. And I got blackout curtains in my bedroom. When I go take a nap, it's dark like fucking midnight in there. And I don't like light. No, I'm anti-light when it comes time to sleep. I'm like the opposite of a vampire. I was married, but then I lost everything. Yeah, it was a mess. It is. It's, you know, it is what it is. I had my bad parts in it too. But yeah. The other thing too is another reason why I never remarried is most women have kids, and I didn't want to raise somebody else's children. You know, that's, you know, some women thought that was selfish, but you know, whatever. Maybe it is selfish, but maybe it was selfish you had kids with and got divorced. I don't know. I mean, the same thing could be said for me, but I know enough that I didn't want to help raise someone else's children. And so I avoided that completely. And there's some women out there that agreed with it. They didn't have a problem with that. They understood. Why not date your own age? Well, man, you know, here's the catch-22 with that question, Leah. First of all, you should be cracked in the back of the head to ask that publicly to somebody that streams, and the majority of the viewers are women, right? And now you're asking me that. My answer to that is not going to be pleasant. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. You're just not. And I'm going to answer the question. I'm debating within my own. I'm talking to myself silently, if you can tell. But the catch-22 is generally women age like milk, and that's one of the reasons, right? So you know there is that. I did give it to you. I said women age like milk. What the fuck? If I date, it's my age. Well, I didn't know we were set up on a date. Are you asking me out? Is that what's happening here? I mean, just come correct. That's all. Just come correct. Time and distance is what we'd have to sort out. I don't mind traveling. I haven't traveled any significant distance for a date, but it's not to say that I wouldn't. I never married, but always long-term relate. 11 years currently after my 8 year. See, now she's saying no. Now she shoots me down. Why don't you date your own age? Now all of a sudden, no. I mean, I don't know. Twiz, where did I go wrong in this setup? What happened, Twiz? What did I do wrong? Milk lasts 11 days and then it fucking spoils. Unbelievable. I've been single 20 years, she says. And she's single, Twiz, and still shot me down. After bringing up all of those questions, I thought you were taking me down the path of redemption or something. I mean, no, I wasn't trying to ask you out. Yeah. I see you playing with your hair. I know what you're doing. I get it. Don't worry. Rejection is nothing that defends old Sarge. Never has, never will. Look at that. He says, I have a shot. I'd like to give him a chance. He's kind of cute. Listen to that. Thank you there, young lady. Oh, it's not always. Listen, I don't know how old you are. So it's not like I'm trying to go out with a 20-year-old or something. I mean, not even close. I don't mind dating women. I'm 60 years old, though, and there's not that many 60-year-old women that have kept themselves in shape because life is not easy, right? And to be very honest with you, the same holds true for some men, but generally up until about 60, I think beyond 60, I think is when some men start to fall apart. But I think a lot of men, depending on how they take care of themselves, like I'm a nice fit and trim 5'10", 160 pounds. I eat well, I live well, and but I didn't let at one time, in all fairness, at one time I was 180. Well, let me think. This morning I was 157, but several years ago I was 187 pounds, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And the irony of that was that didn't happen until my 40s that I started to gain weight. And when I was young and I was a boxer, I could never get over 140 pounds, no matter what I did. I could eat a large pizza, burp, and get on the scale and still be 140 pounds. It was horrible. But I would burn calories just standing there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not jabbed. I'm definitely not jabbed. Oh no, they weren't sticking no needles in me. Hell no. Hell no. I got my teeth. I got a couple more I'm changing. I got to replace 2 teeth. But I got my teeth. I had one tooth replacement done. The premolar, I got to go get that tooth installed. I had the one above that changed. And I got 2 on the other side I've got to replace. So yeah, I got teeth. Got all that shit. I love to eat. Yeah, I didn't go for any of that. And I don't want to get into talking about that because that'll get me struck. Listen, I've dated some crazy ladies, man. Some crazy women, I'll say. Yeah. And I've been fortunate. I've never dated anyone that was unattractive. But I've dated some crazy women, man. The Asians were the craziest. Unbelievable. We did a dating game with old Sarge on some show. I did a dating game on Cluminati's show. I forget the name of her show. We had a date night. And I had to pick of the women that called in to talk. I had to pick one of them. And it was kind of funny. She had her daughter call in. Fucking crazy. And I didn't know it was her daughter. Her daughter was Clue's daughter. That shit was funny as hell, man. Out of all the women that had called in, she was the funnest one. And to find out it was her daughter, I was like, what's the matter with you? You sent your daughter. I think she was like 17 years old. I'm like, no. I wouldn't have willingly talked to her. Yeah, that was funny. Last I talked to Cletus, he was good. It's been a couple of months now. That shit was funny that night. Yeah, and my house is treated like my bedroom. It's crazy. I think I'm like I didn't have a childhood. I had some childhood, but I didn't have a full childhood. So I think like developmentally, when it comes to life, I don't think I've ever gotten beyond 17, 18 years old. I mean, before, oh man. But I'm happy. I don't need anybody to pick up after me. I wear a pair of socks maybe a few hours a day and throw them in the hamper. And then every few months I throw them away and buy new ones. I probably got 60 pairs of socks and the same amount of underwear. Anytime anything comes up that makes it look questionable, I just throw it away. Yeah, I don't know. I live a good life, and I got no complaints. And I have all the free time in the world, which is the awesomest thing. I was in the pool this afternoon for a couple hours, listening to Twiz and his crew make fun of my stream the other day. Twiz and Lucy, and there were a bunch of people out there. I don't know, Luke, Twiz, Sullivan. I took down their names just so I can keep track of them. Because, I roll like that. Yeah, I've got a closet and dressers, 2 closets and dressers. But then I'm also a guy, like in my bedroom, there's a section in my bedroom where I buy 96 rolls of toilet paper at a time, 48 rolls of paper towels at a time. and I buy a whole bunch of shit in bulk because I hate running out of stuff. I buy a dozen tubes of toothpaste every month. I got to, you go through a tube a month. I do that with non-perishable things or things that I use like coffee. I'll buy 12 cans of coffee. I got coffee for a year because my life has been fucking riddled, especially when I didn't have the money to do that. Been riddled with going to the store and forgetting what the fuck you were there for. I know that's happened to everybody. You go into the store for a gallon of milk, and before you get to the milk, there's 3 other things you realize you need. And you grab them, and then you get in your car or you get to your house, you're like, fuck, I needed milk or butter or eggs or something, right? That happens to all of us. So anything that I can eliminate from having to remember to buy, I buy in bulk. I made the mistake of buying a couple of jars of mayonnaise, not realizing it had an expiration date. I think mayonnaise lasts only a year. And I'll tell you, when it gets past that expiration date, don't open it. Just throw it out. Don't open it and look. You won't like it. Yeah, it gives you a whole fucking new opinion about mayonnaise. Yeah, that's just the way I've become. Like, I like that stovetop stuffing. I'll buy a dozen boxes of that. That shit'll last forever. Yep, I do. I bought a box of 40 bags of fucking Frito chips. Yeah. Anything that I can buy that I'm going to use on a regular basis, I try to get it in bulk. Yeah, see, if you work in a grocery store, that's doable. And but I just don't like grocery stores. I just don't like the whole process of going to the store to shop. So I get everything delivered. I got a $390 or $380 order for groceries. That's why I'm emptying my freezer. I got French bread pizza and an apple pie. Yeah, it costs me on average the way I do it about $10 a day, so $300 a month for food. But that includes steaks and sausage and ham and chicken, bacon, breakfast sausages, all kinds of shit. I don't like grocery shopping at all. I just find it to be it's an annoyance. No, I don't like it. It's an awful lot of walking and backtracking and not knowing where the fuck you're going and asking for help and getting the best thing is when they tell you something somewhere and you get over to where something's supposed to be and it might be there, but the stores in my area are massive. They're gigantic. It's like, what the fuck? And some of the stores do make it easy for you. The regular common things are up front. Pack and meat any kind into the freezer. Do you ever take it out and let it thaw? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Steaks. I was buying from Tennessee. I was buying T-bone steaks, 17-ounce T-bone steaks. Buying them by the case. You know, they last a couple of months because I enjoy steak more than anything else. So I eat a lot of steak. Ground beef, ground sirloin. Yeah, I'm a meat and potatoes guys. I'll buy 10 pounds of fucking Idaho potatoes. Yeah. I mean, but of course I'm not going to eat 10 pounds at once, but I will eat a baked potato. I'll eat that often, baked potatoes. Love baked potatoes. Hell yeah, man. But I'm almost empty on the freezer, so I think probably tomorrow. Well, today is tomorrow. It is already tomorrow. No, Sunday. Sunday I'll order for a Monday delivery. I bought a whole bunch of fucking Yahoos, whatever them fucking things are. Yeah, I really like steak. I like the T-bone steaks. I like porterhouse steaks. I'll eat New York strips, which is what I bought last time. Yeah. I love food, man. I go out, I eat the same way. I go to fucking breakfast, steak and eggs. All my friends will tell you that. When we sit down, they're saying whatever steak comes with, get it for him. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we know you're going to order steak. There could be a choice of everything on the menu. And I'll eat the steak. I just enjoy it. Yeah. Oh, I make roasts, chuck roasts, pot roasts. I bake all that shit. That's what I mean. Even when I worked, I only worked 2 hours a day, 9 months a year, 5 days a week. So even when I worked and I was making great money, my hourly wage was significant because I only worked 2 hours a day. But I had to be there with the phone constantly. So anywhere you went, you took the phone in case it rang. And actually there's some days where maybe I took 2 phone calls and that was it, but I had to be available to the phone. So even though I wasn't working like you would consider a job, I still had the responsibility of ownership of the company and had to answer to people. So, maybe you could say I work 24 hours a day, although that's kind of a stretch. Oh yeah, you got to eat red meat. Red meat is good for you. It was the development of the human brain is significant. Once we created fire and started cooking our meat, yeah, that did a big thing for the human brain. The development of humanity as we know it took a leap forward because of the way cooking it breaks down enzymes and proteins and made it much more digestible, and we could get more from it than eating it raw. So yeah, man, you got to have steaks. You got to have the cow. I was watching you guys see any of them commercials from Chick-fil-A? Have you seen any of the Chick-fil-A commercials? The Chick-fil-A puts a cow out there and is telling, they're playing soccer and he keeps flagging the one team because he's going to buy people steaks at the end of the show, at the end of the game, and he disqualifies the team. The cow is the referee, disqualifies the team that's talking about eating steak. And then on the sign behind him, it says, eat more chicken. And then you find out it's a fucking Chick-fil-A commercial. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah. I got to fly the laters. Be good, real Mikey. I'm going to fly too. 2 jobs waitressing 6 days a week. Get 0 breaks. Yeah, man, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. My entire career, I couldn't do that. I just didn't have the fucking, I'm not cut out for that. My goal in life was always to do as little as I could to earn as much as I can without lying, cheating, stealing, or hurting people. And I was very successful at that. So everyone be good. We'll talk to you. Stay the hell out of trouble. If you get in trouble, don't tell anybody. Don't do internet searches about it. And don't bring it up to your phone. Right? I mean, so be good. Talk to you. Thanks for sharing time with me. And we'll see you again.